going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm sitting out here, pretty beautiful day here in Oklahoma, right next to Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. Not the Lake Eufaula in Alabama. This is a different body of water. I had never fished this body of water before practicing here, and it's definitely an interesting place. A really pretty day, like I said, today, but a couple days ago we had absolutely unreal weather. 3 tornado warnings in one day. We ended up getting 7.5 inches of rain one night, which is still impacting the lake right now. So Eufaula is an interesting fishery. It's a dirty, kind of stained water fishery to begin with, and when you stack 7.5 inches of rain all around the area back into all the runoffs and little creeks and stuff, it really makes this place really, really dirty. You know, some of this lake right now is like that much visibility. You know, my confidence coming from the West Coast, I'm a clear water guy. I grew up fishing a lot of clear water reservoirs, and you know, living in Alabama now for a handful of years, I've gotten more and more confident with the stained water, dirty water, but I don't have a lot of confidence when there's that much visibility. Like when you're reeling your spinnerbait along and like you can only see this blade, you can't even see this gold blade. Like that's the clarity difference. Like there's that much I mean, literally, like it's not even the distance between the blades and the bait. It's like the difference between these two blades you can't see in the water. That's how dirty it is. And man, that's just not my confidence. So I looked for cleaner water this week. There's certain areas of this lake that are typically cleaner water, but they're definitely getting impacted by this rain. The lake is up over 3 feet from our first day of practice. It totally changed the playing field. I think it threw these fish for a loop. The fish are kind of, I think they were pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. So there were fish doing a little bit of everything, and this water coming up just kind of scattered everything out, threw everything for a loop, like I said. But anyway, guys, Group A is out there right now fishing. I'm in Group B this week, so I start my tournament tomorrow. Based on watching Score Tracker, things seem pretty slow. We're allowed to watch Score Tracker. We're not allowed to watch any of the live. We can't look and see how guys caught their fish, but we can keep an eye on the, the weights and sort of how the day's progressing and seeing how guys are, steadily, kind of climbing up and catching fish, if they're catching fish. It's really slow. There's been 10 guys all day today that haven't caught a fish. So, and these are, some of the best guys out there in the world, and they're not catching fish. So it's tough. Anyway, guys, we're gonna get right into it. I'm gonna break down some of the baits that I found success on in practice, some of the things that I think are gonna play in this tournament. Got a couple rods here behind me. Even though this place is changing, I feel fairly confident. I don't want to feel too confident because it's changing a lot, and I want to make sure that I go out there with an open mind. But I definitely feel like I had maybe a little bit better practice than some other guys are talking about, kind of just overhearing how guys have been doing. So, and watching Score Tracker, I feel like I'm on maybe a little bit better of a program than what's going on Score Tracker. So fingers crossed, guys, that it stays that way. Let me break down for you what I found success with. All right, guys, so first things first, Oklahoma, shallow power fishing kind of a state. Spinnerbait has got a lot of reputation in this state. Grand Lake, a lot of money's been made on a spinnerbait here in Oklahoma. Don't really know the history on Eufaula, but I would assume the same thing. And man, I found quite a bit of success on the spinnerbait this week in practice. This one right here, this is the new spinnerbait by Dirty Jigs. It's the compact spinnerbait. And there's a few things that I really like about this bait. I threw the 3/8 ounce as well as a 1/2 ounce in a couple different colors. I started things out throwing this, I don't even know the color of it. It's like a chartreuse kind of shad, like with a little bit of like an olive color in the top. You guys could probably find what color that is if you go on the website, but the Dirty Jig spinnerbait's super legit. It's nice compact body, thinner wire on the arm, so you get a little bit more vibration out of your blades. And it's just a thinner material on the skirt too. Like it's not that super, like, I guess normal silicone's not thick, but this is that thinner, softer, more supple material. Really allows that skirt to pulse really good in the water. I found success on that first day, just kind of slinging it up around some crevices in the rock. I think some of the fish that I was catching on this were spawning or staging to spawn. That kind of changed on day two. Day two, so the first day, we'll get into it, I was down on the lower end of the lake. I was fishing down in the, I don't even know the name of the creek, but the lower down towards the dam. If you're going down that way on the left, there's that creek down there, and that whole area was pretty clean. And I went into the back of one of those pockets and found some rocky stuff, and caught them on that spinnerbait. And You know, that seemed to be a player. I thought for sure that that was going to continue to work pretty good. And as the wind picked up and as things got windier, I swapped it over to the 1/2 ounce, still same color, and I still found success in this. I caught fish on that 1/2 ounce blade as well. And so these two guys here, double, you know, willow leaf blades, gold and silver willow leaves, found success with those two spinner baits. You know, just running a little split tail on the back of them. So that was something that I definitely felt pretty confident in. But that first day of practice, the one thing that stood out to me that was like light bulb felt like it went off in my head that I felt like was different was this guy here. I know, guys, another spinning rod, but hey, it's just is what it is. We fish an all fish format. We got to catch as many as we can, and typically speaking, a spinning rod is just better. You put some more finessey baits on there, you can catch a lot of bass. So the rod I was using here, this is the new Jacob Wheeler Select. This is a 7-1 medium, and throwing it on a 2500 10-pound braid to actually a 12-pound leader, which is a little heavier than I normally run. I felt like with the dirtier water here, I felt like I could get away with it. And the bait on here that I found success in was this Ned rig. And this is something you guys don't hear me talk about very much, but it's definitely something I keep in my arsenal. Like I say, coming from out west, used to throw the Ned rig a lot. This is the big TRD. I believe it's a 6 ounce jig head, and it was good enough that I had to sit down on the boat and order 15 more packs of these things because I was running low. And I did that on the first day of the practice. I ended up going around, and what I was doing was I was using my Lowrance Active Target 2. I would kind of get around these areas where there were some rocks, and the transition of the bank had to be semi-steep, not like real flat. And it couldn't be vertical. It had to be like an in-between, and I would just kind of pan around with my Active Target 2, and I'd look for dots that weren't. So if you watch bass on forward facing, you'll realize that bass don't really dart around as much as other species like carp and gar and all these other species. They kind of just shoot around in the water. They'll be up shallow and they'll just be cruising, just like aimlessly going. Bass, they seem to be more like, I don't know, they just seem to be more like calculated about how they move. And so what I look for when I'm looking for the bass, when there's a lot of other species like there are here in Oklahoma, I look for fish that are stationary next to stuff. So fish that are sitting there next to a rock, fish that are sitting there next to a tree, fish that are sitting there just off the bottom, just sitting there, not moving. Those, a lot of the times, are bass, guys. And so what I was doing was I was casting that Ned rig at every one of those that I could and just trying to land my bait past it and let those fish see it. And I was amazed how much success I was having letting those fish just follow it down to the bottom, and I'd shake it on a slack line, and then I would pick it up and there would be one swimming with it. You know, I don't think a lot of these fish were spawning. Maybe a few of them were. That first day of practice, I caught 10 or 12 scoreable bass on that Ned rig, and I caught a few on the spinnerbait as well, like I said. Second day of practice, I fished a different area of the lake, and things changed a lot. The water was up. The water looked decent in this creek. I think it was Longtown Creek that I was in. I saw a lot of local boats. There must have been a tournament going on. A bunch of competitors of mine were in there too, so I felt like, man, there's got to be fish in here. Very, very, very slow. Very slow. I could not get them to go on the Ned rig. I had to swap things up. I was throwing a square bill crankbait. Actually, it's not a square bill. It's like a round bill, but this is a bait that I know last time the MLF was here for the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals last year. I know Kelly Jordan did a lot of damage on that BDS2 Lucky Craft. That's what I caught a few on that second day of practice too. But it was so random. I caught one like 4-pounder on some riprap, but man, it was just so random. I caught a couple of good fish on that. And I just felt like the second day of practice was right when that rain hit, right when the lake started to come up hard. And I didn't like the area of the lake I was in. So yesterday, for the final day, I went down to that lower end towards that creek, and the lake was up like 3 feet. And I started the day out looking around with my active target, caught fish immediately on the Ned rig. Only one of them was a squirrel, but I was getting bites. And this deal, I mean, a 1/6 and a 1/8, there's such a small difference, you know, when it comes to every fish counts. I mean, if I catch 2 1/8s, that's like catching a 3-pounder. So like, I was just trying to get bit, and I was getting bites, so my confidence with the Ned rig was still there. I felt like, okay, this pattern is still a thing. It's not gone because of this influx in water. I feel like this is still a thing. long story short, guys, most of these videos I've done, I've kind of talked about what I think it's going to take to win in the event. In this one, I really have no clue what people are going to do to win. I think you're going to see a lot of diversity and patterns. So personally, in this video, I'm going to focus on what I figured out and sort of what I'm going to do. So the one thing that really stood out to me, I was excited that that Ned rig bite was still there a few days later with the influx in water, the change in water. The clarity got a little bit worse, but it was still decent. You know, there's certain areas where it was dirtier than others in that creek, and I was trying to stay in those cleaner areas. So the other thing I found out, I started going down the bank and I started noticing little shad, like just one or two every once in a while flick up on the bank. And this is the time of the year, guys, where you really want to pay attention early in the morning for a shad spawn. And what you'll see, if you're not familiar with a shad spawn, for me, coming out in Oregon is something I've had to learn over the last few years. And a shad spawn's interesting. A lot of the times it may be very, very, very subtle indicators. You know, there's certain times, if you go watch my TikTok video, you guys can see those shad darting around up around that boat dock when I launched the boat. That right there is a no-brainer. Like, heck yeah, there's a shad spawn going on. They're flicking all over this dock. They're flicking all over the bank. That's like, I mean, if you missed that and you didn't see that, you're just blind. But there's a lot of times when you go out and it's not that obvious. So what I started seeing was little shad flick up on the bank, like one over here, and then I'd see a little ripple off in the distance. And I wasn't really thinking too much of it. I was just kind of panning around, using my Ned rig, you know, tossing the fish. And then all of a sudden I saw one just kind of boil up on the bank. And I was like, man, it wasn't a very big fish, but that was a bass chasing one of those shad up there, I guarantee you. So I picked up my spinnerbait. I picked up that guy right there, 1/2 ounce, chartreuse one, whatever you call that color. Fired up there, immediately got a bite. Fired back out there, caught it. It was like 1.25 pounds. I was like, interesting. Like, that was really quick results. It wasn't like a really defined, awesome looking bank, just kind of a nothing looking area. Sat down, I tied on the tactical shad color of that new 30 jigs compact spinnerbait, and I was like, man, I'm not going to put a trailer on there. This has got tandem silver blades. This is like the perfect shad spawn spinnerbait in that like stained water, not super dirty, but stained water. Started throwing this around and immediately had pretty good results. Caught a 2-pounder quick, moved a little bit further, kind of got away from where I had that bite because I didn't want to burn another fish that could have counted in the event. Fired up to the bank, caught a 3-pounder, boat flipped it, pulled my trolling motor, got out of there, left. And I was like, all right, this is legit. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm getting into a shad spawn, you know, bite, and there's fish around it. And that's the hardest part sometimes, is actually locating the bass around the shad spawn. So I was like, okay, this is like materializing into something. And so I ran to the next little pocket. It was like real, like subtle, didn't really look that good. It was kind of like grassy bank. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't look all that great, but this is kind of like what that other area was like. Let me go back in here and check it out. So I went back in there and I kind of got up near the shoreline. There was a few bushes that were starting to get water on them. Fired up in front of the bushes and caught another 3-pounder. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm putting the spinnerbait up. I'm out of here. I marked another area up in front of me that was about a 1/4 mile up that looked almost identical. Didn't go back in there. There was another area that kind of looked very similar, and I obviously left a bunch of water in between them. So anyway, that seemed pretty legit. I was pretty excited about finding that. After that, I went around and I caught a few more good solid fish, 2.5, and I caught one almost 4, doing the Ned rig deal, just kind of going in between, just hitting something, looking to see if there were fish, casted a couple dots, I'd catch one, and then I wouldn't go any further, and I would just kind of leave and go down and check another little area. So I'm feeling pretty confident in these 2 deals. If I can get on that shad spawn early, and then once that kind of dissipates, go to the Ned rig and pick off fish with my active target, I feel pretty confident about it. That's going to be my strategy for this tournament, guys. Obviously, you know, those are not the only 2 rods I'm rigging up. I've got 10 or so rods behind Michaela that's holding the camera there, and I've got a bunch over here, and I've got a few in the rod locker still, and I'm probably going to have every single one of them rigged up with something different. It's bass fishing, things change, and I'm willing to adjust with it. But guys, this is what I figured out during practice. I feel as though it was a fairly productive practice. I caught a giant one on day 1 I didn't even mention. I caught one almost 7 pounds on that Ned rig. It was ridiculous. So obviously big fish will bite that too. But yeah, guys, let me take a look at Score Tracker here really quick, and I'll kind of tell you what's going on. So last I checked, 15 pounds was first. So right now, still, there's 30 minutes left in period 2 for Group A. 15 pounds, Dave Lefebvre is in first place. 10th place for the elimination line right now. Obviously, nobody gets eliminated today, but it's at 8 pounds 6 ounces. And then the money line is at 5 pounds 4 ounces. So weights are very low. there's still 9 guys with no fish on the board. Jacob Wheeler's the lowest guy in the standings that has caught a bass. Man, it's just really, really slow. So, man, if I feel like I feel like if I can just go around, I just need to not get in a hurry. I just need to pick up these few things I have confidence in and be willing to adjust with the conditions. And I know I'm around fish, guys. So that's the thing. Like, I'm gonna get into these areas regardless of whether I catch them on what I think I'm going to or not. I know I'm around bass, and I just got to make the right adjustments and figure out the right thing to throw at them. So anyway, guys, I know this is kind of long-winded, but I just want to give you a breakdown of sort of what I found, how I found it, and what the week is looking like here at Eufaula. What a crazy week. Tornadoes, I mean, rain. It's supposed to be windy, I think, the next couple days. I think tomorrow's supposed to be overcast. I think we might get even more rain in a couple days. It's just crazy conditions here in Oklahoma. I guess this is the time of the year here in Oklahoma for just wild weather. But we're just gonna go with it, roll with it, and adjust as we need to. But guys, thanks again for watching. I appreciate all the new subscribers on the channel here, and I appreciate everybody that has been a subscriber and everybody that is consistently watching the content. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you later on another episode.